here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of everybody's favorite show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us on this very, very special episode. We've got a buddy of honor here today. We've got my buddy, Billy Gardell. How you doing, Billy?
Good, man. Good to see you again. I like you got your little Tonight Show curtains to open your show. That's nice.
Exactly. Every show needs something. Every show needs a little pizzazz, you know?
I have a little pizzazz. That's right.
Exactly. So, Billy, we met each other about, a month ago or so?
Yeah. You'd done a nice article on me for the Erie Club, Colors Magic Club, which was wonderful. Had a great time up there, and it was nice to meet with you. And here we are.
Absolutely. What have you been up to since Keller's?
Just been out touring, man. Been doing a lot of stand-up since Bob Hearts Abishola ended, and just went into syndication last week, so it's on in reruns. And yeah, just been trying to write my new hour, you know, and trying to enter the world of social media, which for a guy my age is it's like being an old guy on the highway on the internet. You know, everybody's passing, so I'm just trying to chug along. That's all.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind me asking, what inspired you to go back into comedy?
You know, I thought I was done. I stopped doing it for 3 years because I obviously had some health stuff I needed to take care of, and I lost 173 pounds. And then I thought, you know, maybe I'm just at peace with being done with it. But I've had a few friends that were pleasantly annoying about me getting back up. Christopher Titus, Alonzo Bowden, Jay Leno, Steve Byrne, and Ian Bagg were really integral. And Ryan Reese were really integral to kind of going like, what are you doing? Get back up, get back up. And I was like, no, I think I'm done. I really think I'm done with it. And then I went down to see Ian Bagg with my wife. He was at the Irvine Improv, and he was just slaughtering the room. I mean, killing them. And I got that twitch, and I looked at my wife. I go, oh, no, I want to get back up there. And so I just kind of been dipping my toes back in it, and I found myself really enjoying it again, which I didn't think was going to come back for me, and it has. So it's fun to recreate this new hour. Got a new body. There's a lot of new stuff going on in my life. I'm an empty nester, and you know, wife and I have been married 23 years, and so there's stuff to talk about, and the health stuff, and so. You know, I don't think we can do a good job up there unless we believe in what we're talking about. And so I found those things again, and it's just been real fun. And I've been it's been fun to get started. I've been going to open mic nights out here at a club called Flappers.
Ooh.
And it's nice to be around young comics that are just, you know, hungry to do this thing and to be in that same position again. You know, I got to go find the jokes just like them. So it's been really nice. Been really nice.
When they see you walk into the room, what do you think's going through their minds, or what are they saying?
Well, you know, the ones that know me are like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm looking for jokes just like you." And the other ones don't watch TV, so they don't really know me. So I don't really care about any of that shit. I just want to come in and try to find a joke that works and go home, which is kind of how I've run my whole career.
Nice. So even with all your experience, even with everything that you've got going for your mile-long resume, you still enjoy the open mics. You still enjoy the practice.
I just think that's the best place to find it, at least for me, you know, because if you can make a small group of people laugh with a joke, then when you get in front of a big audience, you're going to light it up pretty good. So I always find those to be the best lie detector tests for your jokes, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you yourself, you kind of touched on it a little bit. You yourself have gone through a health journey. Can you walk us through that?
Well, when COVID came, I was 370 pounds, and my doctor was like, look, man, this thing is really, really bad. And by the way, I don't push my beliefs on anybody. That's just what I chose to believe, because I know we got people that think that it was nothing. And, you know, I can't change anybody's mind. I just know I got to do what's right for me and my family. And when that list of most dangerous things came up, you know, type 2 diabetes, smoker, sleep apnea, asthma, obese, like I was like, bingo, I had a full card. So I had to look long and hard at making some real serious health changes. And so I said to my wife that if they come up with a medicine or a vaccine for this thing where it at least will keep it from killing me, because I was in that category, that I was going to change everything. And once that happened, I went and got bariatric surgery, gastric bypass surgery. And I did that 3 years ago. And I lost 173 pounds. And now I have changed everything. You know, I live a different life. You know, I'm a guy that I live now like the healthy people I used to make fun of. That's God's sense of humor, I guess. So, you know, I just kind of follow my rules, and I try to stay as healthy as I can. I'm trying to put some miles back on the clock. You know, that's all.
Exactly. What are some things you do today to ensure that you stay healthy?
Well, I have a pretty strict regimen about eating. I take vitamins and supplements, and I'm not on any medications. My type 2 diabetes is gone. I make sure I get 70 ounces of water a day, and I try to eat healthy. And, you know, I try to walk a couple times a week. I try to work out a couple times a week, and just take care of this old jalopy I'm walking around in.
Mm-hmm. And going back to comedy, when you're writing comedy, when you're looking for jokes, what are some things that inspire you?
Well, I always find that writing stuff that I'm going through or stuff about being a parent or a husband, because that's kind of my life and that's what I love. I always find that's usually what my audience connects with. And so I look for those things. I look for things that are evergreen. I don't write too much topical stuff because it disappears so quickly. And I like the human shared experience. That's what I like to write from, because I think it's, I think the more connected we are, the harder we laugh together.
Mm-hmm. What do you do, like, if you ever get like writer's block, or you just have a day where you're just looking at the notebook like any minute now?
Well, no, I'm not a sit down and write guy. I wish I was. I wish I was prolific like that, but I'm not. It takes me forever to write a joke, but when I do, it's usually pretty solid. So, excuse me, my process is, I'll jot an idea down, and then I kind of go and work it on stage, and I record myself. And then I come down and I listen to what worked, and I keep that and I trim it. And then some weird thing happens that sticks. The combination sticks in my head for that sentence. And then I try to add to that. But I write on stage, and it takes forever. But once I get there, I get there. But everybody's way of writing is different. You know, I wish I was a guy that could sit in front of the computer and just churn out jokes, but I've never been that guy.
Definitely. I'm still looking myself. I'm still looking to get past the writer's block myself. No excuses, but.
Well, I always find if you're doing stuff and reading stuff, it comes a little easier than if you're just sitting there trying to think of stuff. That's what works for me anyway.
So go with the experience. Go with, like, just take a walk or something and see what you
can. Try to feed your brain with something creative. Read a book, listen to music, go to see films, go to a museum. Go out and people watch at a diner, stuff like that. And then I pay attention to my marriage. And when my wife says something that I think's funny, she'll look at me and go, "That's going in the act, right?" And I'll go, "Yes, it is."
I do that, and my wife's going to go, "That's going in the act, right?" Yeah, whack. So, but one thing I wanted to talk about, you and me, we didn't grow up that far apart, You're from Pittsburgh, I'm from Erie.
Yep.
So, 2 years. Tell me about like your experiences in Pittsburgh. Tell me about being a Pittsburgh native.
I take great pride in being from Pittsburgh. I am a Pittsburgher through and through. I got my work ethic there. My dad and family and my grandparents were all born there. And, I ended up in Florida right around high school because my parents got divorced. And, but I went back every summer to be with my dad, as well as with my other siblings. And, Florida kind of taught me how to daydream, and Pittsburgh taught me my work ethic. So I think I got really good at daydreaming. So, but Pittsburgh has a pride in doing things right. It has a pride in right and wrong and just and kindness. And, look, the goat of kindness is from Pittsburgh, Mr. Rogers. So, I think if you're following or trying to follow some of the kindness rules in this world, I think it's an easier life. And I like the Pittsburgh sense of humor too, because it's sarcastic, but it's not cruel. And that's and look, everybody's thing is different, but that's what I magnet to.
Mm-hmm. When you do go back for a visit, what are some of your favorite things to do there?
Well, of course, I go back for sporting events. My beloved Steelers, I love to see them in a Buccos game when I can handle it, and I I love the Pens too, but it's about being in the city, being around the people, being on WDVE, which is a radio station there that I love with Randy Bauman and Billy Crawford and Mike Prosciutta and Allie. You know, they just, I don't know, man. It's I call in every Tuesday because it just feels like calling home, and then there's the food. You know, I don't get to eat as much of it anymore, but there's some stops I got to make. I got to go down to the Strip District, and I got to go to Fiore's Pizza, and I got to go get a hoagie, maybe a Battleship in Swissville. And, you know, those little haunts that remind you of your childhood. I like to stop and get all those things.
Nice. I'm still holding it too. One day you and I need to go to a Steeler game together.
Sure.
And we'll make a pack whenever, by halftime, we'll see who needs the CPR first. Or
yeah, they don't make it easy on us, do they?
I think there's a thing called the Cardiac Kids.
No,
that's slowly becoming them.
That was Cleveland, not us. That's Cleveland. Don't ever mention them in the same sentence as us.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgive me, Father. What do you think? Speaking of Steelers, let's talk Steelers a little bit.
All right.
What are you thinking about this season?
I still think it's week 2, so, you know, we got a lot of work to do. I think the offense still needs a lot of work. I'm still not sure if it's going to be Fields or Russell Wilson, but I will say this last game, Austin stepped up. That was nice to see him step up because we're going to need somebody to take the heat off Pickens so he's not double covered the entire time. I like the look of the line. They're getting better. We got a great running back. We got 2 great running backs, Najee and Warren, and I like our tight end Washington. He's a great compliment for Freiermuth, and I think the defense is Super Bowl caliber. It's just the offense has to generate more points.
Mm-hmm. I think the offense with the superb defense. I think the offense is kind of running off of just win. Doesn't mean you have to win big. You know, you don't have to do a big blowout win or something, but just win.
That'll only carry you so far. You
Exactly.
You got to give those guys some breathing room and not have them on the field half the game. You know, you got to give them so that way when they come out, they are even more devastating. And I think with the addition of that cornerback from Carolina and Joey Porter Jr. on the other side and Queen we got from Baltimore makes that line even more devastating with Cam and Watt. So I think the pieces are there on defense. Offense, to me, I'm still waiting to see. I'm hoping we hit a rhythm. You know,
hit a rhythm, or sometimes the Steelers even surprise us like mid-season and go out for someone really big that changes the game. Like that's how we got Fitzpatrick. That's how we got, you know, all those guys. Like I do
like what Khan has done, our new GM. I like what he's done, the moves he's made. I think he's kind of moved us into the future with free agency because we didn't really do that a lot. And I think he's made some great moves, and I think we're getting there. And you know, Tomlin will figure out a way to win, you know, with a lemon and a bottle of water in the fridge. So let's just wait and see how we do.
I was just about to say one Steeler knack that they have is the fact that they can take a wide receiver no one's ever heard about. This kid was drafted 6th round, just given a chance because we could fill a wide receiver slot and turn him into the next Hines Ward.
Yeah, I think. Well, there's a saying in the Steelers locker room. It's outside the room. There's a plaque that says the standard is the standard. And I think that the players that come to Pittsburgh, the ones that stay there, buy into that. And I think they might play even better than they realize sometimes because there's a lot of history, a lot of ghosts in that organization that they have to live up to.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever? This is probably a stupid question, but have you ever been to a Steelers tailgate?
Oh God, 1 million. Yeah, absolutely. That's an event in itself, you know. And yeah, man, it's just I think every town has their thing, but ours to me is very special. There's a communal vibe down there that you leave everything else at the door, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. I actually asked you about the tailgating because I've got some buddies. They call themselves the unofficial Pittsburgh mascots. They've got Steeler Jesus, Pope Yinzer, Steelman, the terrible bra lady.
Sounds right.
Everything. You know, they've been on the show. They're a great group of people, and a couple of them are from my hometown. So
nice.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing else I love to do when I go to Pittsburgh is, have you ever heard of this thing? It's called Steel City Con.
No. What is that?
It's a giant Comic Con in Pittsburgh, and they get celebrity, like they get A-list guests. Like we're talking Chevy Chase, We're talking like Ralph Macchio. We're talking, like big names, everything like that. So probably answers my question if you've ever been to one of those before.
Nope.
It's at the Monroeville Convention Center, if you've ever been there.
I've actually played there.
Nice. Yeah, it's out there. It's a beautiful.
3 years ago, I did a show out there. It was like Yinzer Woodstock. It was wonderful.
Nice. Now you got to tell me about that now, because now I'm interested.
No, it's just they cleared it out there, and I'm from Swissville, which is 1 exit up and 2 exits up actually, and I just wanted to do something close to the neighborhood that I grew up in, so it was nice to do it out there for that part of the city.
Mm-hmm. A follow-up question that I had for my own question is, do you ever consider doing something like that, like a Comic-Con every now and then or something?
I really haven't. No, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I should probably look into those things, but when I'm home, I like to be home, and when I'm gigging, I gig, and if there's time or opportunity, I'd be open to it, but haven't done it yet.
Nice. Yeah. If I can find you some representation, by all means, I'll send them your way. So speaking of Pittsburgh too, one thing I wanted to ask you, could you teach us a little Pittsburghese?
Sure. A rubber band is a gum band. A faucet is a spigot. When the roads are icy, they're slippy. Baloney is jumbo. And, the Yinzer accent has its very own place in our lexicon. We have big O's and hard R's. Yin's going down there for about an hour. I'll be there. We just have a lot of things.
Love it. Does your Pittsburghese ever come out like in LA where you are?
Usually after, it's always with me a little bit, but when I come home from Pittsburgh, yeah, it's extra thick. Like as soon as I land out there, it blows out of me. And then I'm stuck with it for a couple of weeks until, I'm on set somewhere and someone goes, "What'd you say?" So I have to dial it down a little bit.
I would just love to be your neighbor and just to have that like conversation the minute you land or something like that. So, but Billy, one thing I wanted to ask you was about your acting career. We talked about in the article, but for our buddies who don't know, tell us about your acting.
Well, I've been very lucky. I came out to Hollywood in '96, I guess, after having done stand-up on the road for about 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And then about another 10 years, I hit Mike and Molly. But in that 10 years, I was lucky. I got little guest starring parts here, and I've been very lucky with the people I've been able to work with. A guy named Greg Garcia, who's an executive producer out here, who did Yes Dear and Raising Hope, and My Name is Earl. Took a liking to me on Yes Dear and worked me there. That was my first reoccurring role, and then he worked me on a couple of his other shows, and so really helped me get my feet under me. And and of course I got to work with Chuck Lorre and Jimmy Burrows, which is just the top of the top. And I got to do cool little guest starring parts. I got that guest star on Monk. That was an early one for me with Tony Shalhoub. And Desperate Housewives, and I got to work for David E. Kelly on The Practice, and Judging Amy. And I came out here at a time that it was television was still at its peak. So when you got to do it, my first guest starring was on a show called The King of Queens with Kevin James. Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing I'd ever done, and it was just great to get those experiences that built to when I'd be ready to do Mike and Molly.
Nice. And with that experience, I kind of always had this question on my mind. The show kind of answers it itself, but your experience on young Sheldon, what do you think ever happened to Herschel after the divorce and everything like that? If you could write his ending. I
don't know, man. Writing ain't my thing. I act, but I can tell you that Young Sheldon was another phenomenal show, and that was I got to come on and play Herschel's neighbor. In between Mike and Molly and Bob Hearts Abishola, and Chuck said, "Hey, you want to come over here and play Herschel's neighbor?" And what's great is the guy who plays Herschel, his name's Lance Barber, and he's a Chicago guy, but he's got Texas family, and that's why he fit right into that role. And he's just one of the greatest guys. And ironically, when it came down to the final 2 choices of Mike and Molly, it was me and Lance Barber. In fact, me and Lance used to pass each other auditions all the time because we were kind of the same type, same guy. And I got Mike and Molly, and he congratulated me, and I was so grateful for that. And then when he finally got Young Sheldon, I was incredibly grateful and happy that he got on the Chuck Lorre campus as well, and he killed it. He just absolutely killed it the whole way through. And a great guy to boot.
Absolutely. Can you give us any funny behind the scenes stories of young Sheldon?
I was only there as a guest star. And when you come in as a guest star, you just, you're there to do your job. I got a lot of laughs with Lance. Me and him would hang out, and he'd have. He's a Chicago guy, so he's constantly checking on his cubbies, and and then we would, fight over donuts. The day when I was still throwing down at the table, but again, a wonderful cast, like really lovely. They were welcoming and they were fun to play with, and I was grateful to do it.
Nice. What about a nice Mike and Molly behind the scenes story? Something that always stands out to you?
Man, I never know how to answer these questions, but what I can tell you is there wasn't a day I felt like I was at work on Mike and Molly. Wasn't a day. I love those people, and we all went through our initial success together. And, working with them, sometimes I marveled the cast that I was among, because, you got Melissa, who's just amazing, and came out of she had already had a show before us, the Gilmore Girls, and then she's a groundling and came out of Southern Illinois, and went to college there. And then Reno, who I love, he's like my brother, and he went to the School of Fame in New York. And Niambi, who's a Shakespearean trained actor. Katie Mixon came out of Carnegie Mellon. Lou Mastillo and Swoosie Curse worked Broadway constantly in films. Rondi Reed came out of Steppenwolf, and and then I came out of a comedy club kitchen. And those guys, they circled around me and made me very, very good at that craft. And it was because of them and the connection we all had. We all really love each other, and we still talk to each other. And I think that came through, and it made a classic. I do think it's a classic.
Awesome. You're right. It is an absolute classic. Another classic show that you've been on is Funny You Should Ask. I was just watching a clip of that before this interview here. What was that experience like?
Well, I like game shows. I've always liked game shows. Me and my grandmother used to watch them, and it was fun because it had kind of a Hollywood Squares type of vibe to it, and it was all the comics that were my generation. Louis Anderson, God rest his soul, was there, and Howie Mandel, and and just comics from my time. John Lovitz is in there, and so it was fun to sit on that panel and cut up with those guys. The funniest stuff was in between the takes when you'd hear our comments that they couldn't use.
I can only imagine. Mm-hmm. Do you still keep in touch with any of comics that you started out with, comics that you've gotten to know, like you just mentioned?
Yeah, my open mic night was pretty eclectic looking back. I mean, my group of open micers in Florida, Dan Whitney, who became Larry the Cable Guy, he was Dan Whitney back then, and Tom Rhodes, and those guys were already feature acts out on the road, but they would come in for open mic night. And then it was me and Daryl Hammond and Carrot Top and Wayne Brady. And so, but none of us knew then that any of us were going to do anything. We were just doing open mic night and going to Denny's trying to figure out jokes afterwards. But looking back, it was quite a graduating class to be a part of. And I talked to a lot of those guys still.
Mm-hmm. Do you still remember your first real big gig, the one that kind of you would pinpoint that was the real start of the career, that was the transition to a career?
I think the first time you get paid to do stand-up is the biggest gig in your life. First time you get anything. I think I would make $25, and I was like, wow, I made $25 while I'm telling jokes. But a pivotal one came later on after Mike and Molly, when I headlined the Mirage in Las Vegas, and I got to bring my dad, my family, and the cast of Mike and Molly came over. That was the first time I thought, wow. And I'm very, very blessed to be able to do something like this.
Mm-hmm. Now, Billy, I just got to do this real quick. I'm going to insert a little ad for myself. For all my Erie buddies out here, don't forget, we have the Emma's Footprints Walk coming up this Saturday. Please, if you're in Erie, Pennsylvania, please join us. Billy, I don't know if you know about Emma's Footprints. They're an organization that helps with infancy and pregnancy loss. They've been helping my wife and I a lot this year. A lot of buddies know it. And I apologize, it's Sunday, not Saturday. But yeah, they've been helping my wife and I a lot this year. And this year we are Team Silas.
Listen, man, anytime you're doing stuff that helps people, your life gets better, period.
Exactly.
Service is the answer, man. Service, not self.
Exactly. And by doing so, we are raising money for Emma's Footprints. if you go to this thing, you can you have two options. A, join us for the walk. B, donate. Or C, all the above. And if you can't be in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's a virtual option too. So just wanted to plug Team Silas in there. Go Team Silas. We'll see you all on Sunday. So, but you're absolutely right. Anything you can do for a service is heartfelt. It's truth. It's a matter. I'm a very charitable man myself. No matter the charity, I'm not gullible. I'm not going to raise money for the chupacabras or something like that, but if anyone brings a true dear close to their heart because their family member is battling something, because their best friend has to live life this way, something, just bring it to my attention.
Well, again, we go back to Mr. Rogers. Look for the helpers.
Exactly. And I love that. I really love that Mr. Rogers is from Pittsburgh,
It's the GOAT. Let me tell you how cool Pittsburgh is. Andy Warhol, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Carnegies, who basically built the country. You got August Wilson. And then if you think about it, Michael Keaton's first job was working at Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So we come from a city where Batman worked for Mr. Rogers. That's how cool we are.
Mm-hmm. What's your all-time favorite memory or quote of Mr. Rogers? I got to know.
He did something that blew me away when I was a kid. He got an Emmy for his show. And instead of thanking anyone, he took a minute and he said, we're here to lift people up and help people. And he goes, I just want you to take this time I have for my speech and think about someone who loved you or inspired you. And then he just was silent there. And everybody did that in the audience. And it just shows you again the power of kindness, man. It's the last thing we seem to reach for these days. But to me, it's the most powerful tool we have.
Mm-hmm. I got to live by the quote. If you can be anything in this world, be kind.
There you go.
It's 3 rules to success. Be kind.
Yeah, my dad used to always say, don't cost nothing to be nice, kid.
Exactly. A kind word is never wasted and can save somebody's life. That's how I live by. Yep. And that kind of inspired our motto, which you're going to hear at the end of the show, which is go be someone's buddy. If you can be anything in the world, be a buddy.
There you go.
So, Billy, first off, you're not a guest. You're a buddy on Buddycast. Please know that.
I'm official now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do you think of Buddycast?
So far, so good, Bob.
Awesome. So part of Buddycast, one of my favorite questions to ask comes from us by our buddy Jonas Kane at #Positivity. He wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
Well, I think you have to be honest without being hurtful. I think you have to be trustworthy. You have to be loyal. And I think you have to be accountable and loving. I have a great circle of friends that has not changed in 25 years.
Wonderful. And even just today, are those Pittsburgh friends? Are they everywhere friends?
Yes and no. I don't go looking, but when you find someone and you connect and you realize that there's someone you can be honest with without them weaponizing that, and someone you can laugh with, and someone you can show up to and have them show up for you, that's powerful stuff. People that can be around your kid and people that can share life experiences with you and the tough parts of life together, to be there in those moments when there's loss or there's heartbreak. I mean, that's what it is to be a buddy, I think. Most
definitely. Hey, C.S. Lewis says it best. True friendship is born when one friend says to another, you too?
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, Billy, we've come to what's called the ultimate Buddycast buddy question. You ready for this one?
Sure.
I'm going to break it up into 2 parts for you. The first one is for anyone who wants to go into stand-up comedy or is practicing the art of stand-up comedy today. What's your advice to them?
Just work on your act more than anything else you work on. And don't worry about what anybody else is doing. And I don't mean that in a shitty way. I just mean work on you. Just be concerned with what you're doing, your path, and how you can get better. And I think the better you get, the easier it gets.
Stay in your own lane. Mm-hmm. And the second part, same question, but for acting. What's your advice to anyone out there who dreams of being an actor?
Same thing, man. Watch the greats that you liked so that you can figure out what you want to be, what kind of actor you want to be, and study the craft. That's where everything is. I always tell my son, preparation and study kill fear, because a lot of people talk about what they want to do, but can't get past the fear of trying. But if you busy yourself in the work and not the outcome, I think it gives yourself a chance.
I like that. That was my answer for the comedy thing about what happens when you take a break from comedy and you're trying to get back into it and you're just trying to do it so hard. Just get yourself busy with it and the fears will go away.
Get moving, man. Get moving.
One step at a time. So, Billy, thank you for being a buddy on Buddycast. It was a pleasure catching up with you.
Great to see you again, Nick. And thank you for the kind article. And I wish you and your wife the best, man.
Thank you very much. Stick around for a minute. We'll chat for a minute afterwards.
Okay.
But, Billy, I got a favor to ask you before we close out the episode.
Sure.
Whatever you're going to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year, promise me you're going to go out and you're going to go be someone's buddy.
You got it. I already am.
Perfect. For all my buddies out there, this is my buddy, Billy Gardell. Please watch Mike and Molly, young Sheldon, Bob Hearts Abishola. Please catch him if he's doing comedy in your area. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us on everybody's favorite show.
Well, the days are going fast. Buddy, we've got to make them last. Buddy, before they've all gone past. Buddy, tune in to Buddycast. But don't feel none, go make it, buddy, here on Buddycast.